our first power panel, which is on full funnel marketing. And it's interesting to me because I think companies have traditionally split brand and performance marketing efforts. Of course, the brand side, being less measurable, was focused more on building the brand and kind of getting the awareness out there. And then you had performance that was focused on clicks and ROI. But today, companies are moving to this full funnel approach where they're integrating the power of the brand with performance marketing. So in this session, Seizing Growth with Full Funnel Marketing and Measurement, we're going to actually discuss how companies are setting up measurement and how they're integrating their teams in order to combine that lower funnel and upper funnel strategy. So please join me in welcoming our panelists, Amanda Bopp, VP of North America Marketing at Spade, Carolyn Pollock, CMO at Tailored Brands, Sarah Rasmussen, Chief Customer Officer at Land's End, Joe Yackwell, Founder and CEO of Within, moderated by Farzana Nasser, Partner at Chameleon Collective.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So we have a great group of panelists here today. The topic for today is full funnel marketing. We'll be diving deep on unpacking finding the right balance between brand marketing and performance marketing. So I'm excited for a great conversation. We have a fantastic group here. And it's interesting, they're going to be sharing their perspectives on a really important topic, and we're in a very interesting time from an e-commerce perspective. As marketers, we're trying to comp to significant growth during COVID and pandemic times and accelerating that growth this year. And then we also have we're facing rising advertising costs and inflation and so many other things happening in the marketplace. So I think this conversation is more relevant than it ever has been. And we continue to evolve our approach to full funnel marketing. And so we'll talk a little bit about the evolution of where that's come and where it's going, and really unpack some of the tactics around how we actually dive deep on perfecting the customer journey and really thinking through measurement and how that has evolved over time. So to kick it off, I'd ask you all to make a quick introduction. So your name, company, and then if you could also talk a little bit about how you in your current role touch full funnel marketing today. And we'll start with you, Joe.
Awesome, thank you. It's good to be with everybody today. So I'm Joe Yackwell, founder and CEO at Within. We've been around for about 7 years, working predominantly with retailers like Nike, Rite Aid, Casper, Rag & Bone, and the like. I think full funnel marketing, obviously what we do for a living with our clients, but looking at everything from creative to media, from one channel to another, from brand to performance, and trying to collapse those silos. And the way that we kind of see full funnel marketing changing over time is really removing silos that exist regardless of where they are. And those silos exist in management, those silos exist in budgeting, in planning, and in KPIs. And we believe that looking at things through the lens of the business first allow you to remove those silos and focus everything back to the business objective. And that's really what we focus on at Within with our clients.
Great. Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Rasmussen, Chief Customer Officer of Land's End. On the marketing side, I'd say my stance includes direct response marketing, which is catalog and any of our paid channels. We are the keepers of the checkbook, though, for the brand team. We are also known as the dream killers. But it's in that system of checks and balances with the brand creative team needing to do what they need to do to grow and expand the brand, how they work hand in hand, literally, with the direct response marketing team.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Pollock. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Tailored Brands. We own a series of menswear companies, Men's Warehouse, Joseph A. Bank, Moores in Canada, and then K&G, which is primarily in the South. So in my team, everything marketing is pulled together, which is lovely because it does allow us to actually have a full funnel approach to it. And we, in fact, recently reorganized to have all of our channels under one leader. And then we also have our brand. I have a chief brand officer who's responsible for all of the content, brand positioning, all of that. So the two work very closely together, and I think it enables us to take that more holistic lens on the customer, which we're starting to see it really pay off. So looking forward to talking more about it.
Awesome.
Right.
Hi, good morning. I'm Amanda Bopp. I am Vice President of Marketing at Kate Spade. When I joined the company 3 years ago, we actually did not have a full funnel discipline. And so one of the things that I did in partnership with a variety of folks was really bring the teams together to create full funnel marketing. So we now have underneath one place all marketing disciplines, inclusive of organic and paid, be they about a brand objective or awareness, and then all of the media driving down to conversion. So we really took the opportunity 3 years ago to bring everything together to be more intentional about the customer journey.
Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. So Carolyn, let's kick it off with you. The evolution of full funnel marketing has changed significantly over the last 5 and even 10 years. And I'd love to hear a little bit more, and I think the audience would really be interested in hearing how that's evolved for you over time. You know, where has it started? Where are you guys today on the journey to get to kind of that utopian solution around full funnel marketing and measurement?
Yeah, utopia for sure. So we've gone through a major transformation. I mean, we were starting this prior to COVID. The playbook kind of before I came in was heavy TV. I mean, you guys probably all can quote George Zimmer and his line. And we were pretty strong on that and not a lot else. And we had some digital and performance marketing, but not a ton. And so we've really shifted that, and then I think it kind of swung the pendulum all the way to the other end, where it was very much lower funnel. You know, during the pandemic, there were no weddings, there were no big events, people weren't going to the office, and all the occasions that customers typically come to us for weren't there. So we really had to go deep in our existing customers and make sure that we were hanging on to them in whatever moments were relevant for them. So that was all, you know, extremely lower funnel, whether it was our own email channels, search, et cetera. And we did a lot to innovate and change there to make that more efficient. But then as we started to emerge, you know, our primary acquisition engine is our wedding business and rental and retail for weddings. And we needed to start filling the top of the funnel again. And not only does that obviously help the flywheel go and make all of the other channels perform better, but it also, most importantly, I think, starts to build that relationship with the customer so that when they do see your name pop up in a search result, you know, they're much more likely to actually click on yours versus someone else's. So we've really evolved to taking a much more holistic lens on the customer, what's the relationship we're trying to build, and just knowing that there's a role for each channel, and how does that role fit back to the ultimate goal of building that relationship with the customer.
That's great. Yeah, I really love the focus on the relationship and thinking about that from a full funnel approach. Amanda, at Kate Spade over the last 3 years, how have you seen things evolve? Like, where did things start when you started there, and where are they today?
Yeah, we were almost at a different place where we had, I would say, the vast majority of our dollars were at the bottom of the funnel, and we were really underfunded from a top of funnel perspective. And as a storytelling brand, we have so many wonderful stories and messages to leverage to connect with the customer, and we just weren't invested there. And so what was happening is that we had the majority of our impressions were really talking about promotions. And so even though we were in the bottom of the funnel, we weren't even really discussing anything in the bottom of the funnel other than sale and promotion. So we've had a really concerted effort to figure out how to better balance those messages and to make sure that we're actually communicating with the customer about what's so wonderful and special about our brand, as much as we are talking about the things that we need to do to drive our business.
Mm-hmm. Joe, you have the benefit of seeing a breadth of different clients across so many different brands and how they're approaching this from a full funnel perspective. And would love to kind of get your perspective on how you're connecting the dots at the agency level for the brands that you work with, from top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom funnel marketing. How are you guys thinking about how to prospect and re-engage and, you know, retarget folks? And from an investment perspective, how should brands be thinking about how to invest across each stage as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, going back to this kind of business-centric view of marketing and looking at things through the business lens before you get to the channel or even kind of where you are in the funnel, to us it's really important that we hold everything accountable to KPIs that we can measure. And I think, you know, the tricky thing is when you try to apply the same method of measurement or the same KPI to everything, because that's where it doesn't work. And we were trying to do something much way higher in the funnel. You still want to be able to measure it and hold yourself accountable to it, especially if there's material budget being put behind it. But how you measure it, or even the length of time that you measure it in, has to be very different. And I think that brands oftentimes are not measuring things that take a long time to materialize and only measure things that have immediate gratification. And if you think about last click or you think about lower funnel channels, that's exactly what's happening, right? It's easy to measure because it's there and the time to conversion is short. And therefore, those are the things you focus on measuring. And then things that are way higher in the funnel, we say, hey, well, we can't really measure this. It takes a long time, so we're going to do it. We're just not going to measure it, or we're not going to hold ourselves accountable to it, but it sounds like a great idea. Let's go for it. And I think those things are measurable as well, right? You might have to hold out a specific geography. You might have to do it through a survey type of measurement. You might have to measure it over the course of 6 months or even a year. But not measuring it is also not holding yourself accountable to it. So that's really how we like to think about things, is not try to have one methodology or KPI to everything, but still hold everything accountable to measurement. We talk a lot about just the most basic of things, and that brands do marketing for one reason, right? And it's to make money, right? There's no other reason why brands do it. Yet when it comes to brand marketing, sometimes people lack to hold that accountable to making money the same way they do performance marketing. So we believe that everything can be held accountable and can be measured, and would just a matter of the methodology and the time frame that you put against it.
Great. And Joe, can you go one level deeper? Like tactically, like how would you think about it? Like top of funnel versus mid versus bottom of funnel? Like just to give a few examples.
Yeah, absolutely. So for top of funnel, survey measurement is really critical. You could survey existing customers. There's a lot of really simple and easy ways to do that type of measurement. Obviously, email it can do it. I think one mistake people make along the way is giving people an incentive back to their own brand for measurement. It's a really big no-no in research, in that you're now biasing your audience to the people who are most likely to care about you getting a coupon, them getting a coupon for your own brand. But incentivizing them with like an Amazon gift card or something like that to fill out a survey for your brand is a really interesting and easy way to do it against your existing customer base and see how things are changing for them over time. You can do that against your email signups separately from your existing customers to understand the difference in longer term impacts. If you're doing something that's upper funnel that can be held out with the geography, that's definitely the best and cleanest way, because then you can just do a geo holdout and see the impact of that brand lift in the areas where you did that. For mid-funnel, we're using a number of either vendors or some of our own internal solutions for either incrementality testing at mid-funnel or MTA or MMM. For existing customers, I think it's the easiest thing to measure, because you have the audience already, you know who they are. And doing a holdout at the existing customer level is very simple and easy to do. I think one thing that's very beneficial that most brands are not doing is like lifetime holdouts, where you hold people out from all marketing over the course of a year, and then you can kind of switch out the cohort that's doing that. But by holding out an existing customer cohort for an entire year, you get a true baseline on what the LTV of your customer is without touching them with marketing. Because we all talk about LTV and what is the LTV of my existing customers, but when you look back at your customers that you acquired a year ago and measure that LTV, you're also measuring LTV baking in the fact that you market to them over that time period. Yeah. So we want to hold the same metric for existing customers and new customer acquisition, where you can measure LTV, but looking at incremental LTV against what you would have gotten anyway for an existing customer by looking at that universal baseline of control. So there are just some tactics from different parts of the funnel and KPIs you can hold them accountable to.
Yeah, I think these days customer lifetime value is more important than ever before because of rising customer acquisition costs. And so how do you maintain profitability, not just focus on revenue, but ensure that it's profitable revenue? Sarah, I'd love to get your thoughts on this and how you're thinking about this. Like, as far as, is this the year of retention and loyalty tactics more so because things
Yes.
are getting so expensive?
Yeah, I mean, we said at dinner last night, we all admitted to tossing out the playbook within the last 8 weeks. Like, just, anything we thought we were going to do is now just brand new. But, at Land's End, we have incredible customer lifetime value. We shared publicly that we have an 18-year retention rate with our customer base, which is just incredible. But with that, as we are a direct-to-consumer retailer, we send a lot of catalogs. We still send a lot of catalogs. We will always send a lot of catalogs. But it's our most expensive channel, but it is our most profitable, hands down. We know how to send catalogs. So as we look to this next year, while we're certainly going through lots of the same exercises, I mean, you said fill up the top of the funnel, which we have to do. We have to, and we are always looking at ways to do that well and profitably. It's kind of becoming a back to basics year. And you were talking about with retention and holdouts, our data science team is doing incredible things with how we direct mail, right? We have a wonderful plus size cohort. She's tremendously loyal to Land's End. But do I need to send her every catalog? Typically that's been a kind of a well, let's just cut circ by 100K. They're kind of taking those methods to save money. But we are actually, the data science team has been doing some incredible work of, Mary is most likely to buy in this next mailing and not the next one. And that, from an incredible way of optimizing our marketing spend, our catalog spend, has been terrific. Lots of long-term testing, though, with that. But it's retention's the name of the game.
Yeah, this idea of back to basics is so interesting. Like direct mail is having its heyday again, and surveys to measure top of funnel marketing is back again. So I think that's really interesting. From a new channel perspective, Amanda, how are you guys thinking about new either brand channels or performance marketing channels? Have you identified other opportunities to scale outside of kind of the traditional established channels that everyone seems to be on these days?
Yeah, so we're always on the hunt, right, for what's new and what's next. What I would say, though, is that rather than thinking about what's the next channel or platform, we really think about it from the perspective of who is our audience and where do we need to go to meet the customer where she is, and then what are those platforms or mediums that are actually going to best service the customer or convey our message in the most impactful way. So we look at everything from, as an example, for a traditional channel, we've had a lot of success with things like out of home. At the same time, we've also had a lot of success with TikTok. This last year, we have executed a variety of TikTok hashtag challenges and other campaigns that have resulted in billions and billions of views and new customers. So for us, it's really trying to figure out that balance of where she is, where we can best meet her, and then how we can best serve her up a message.
And how does that translate into investment from a budget perspective? How do you allocate dollars across both for brand, because I know that you oversee brand and performance, so how do you make those tough decisions as far as how to allocate investment?
So it's actually very, very tricky, and the way that we manage the brand budget is different from a financial perspective than the way we manage the performance budget. From a performance standpoint, we have a flexible budget, right? If we continue to be profitable and we're making money off a campaign, we feel good about continuing to invest in that campaign. We've not had the same approach from a brand perspective. However, given some new measurement that we've got in place and some additional marketing analytics, we think that we're at a place now where we can actually start to apply that same thinking as we do around performance to brand campaigns so that we can really scale from an awareness perspective. So really it's all about the type of measurement that you have available and then working with your finance partners to come up with something that's flexible but also feels responsible.
Yeah, so let's address the elephant in the room, measurement. I think that is really what's dictating a lot of these decisions as far as investment. So let's talk a little bit about attribution and measurement. Carolyn, at Tailored Brands, how are you guys thinking about attribution and measurement when you look at every stage of the funnel?
So we've been doing a lot lately, investing in building out a full new MMM, media mix model as well. And part of the key input into that, we've been running a series of match market incrementality tests, so literally carving out channel by channel, whether it's TV, online video, search, affiliates, et cetera, and carving out where we can geo-target and identifying similar markets, and then really just seeing what's driving that incremental lift. And that's a key input into that model, which is then helping us look at it. And then, like Joe was saying, like every channel has a metric. Every channel's got a KPI that you can effectively use. You just have to figure out what it is and what your time window is. So, and everyone, we run TV and everyone's like, how's the campaign doing? How's it going? And, 2 weeks after it aired. And so, we look at different leading indicators. So if you see your direct traffic coming to your website increasing, you see your SEO becoming more effective, like those are indicators that maybe people are seeing your brand out there more and actually driving more to your business. So we look at all kinds of things sort of end to end there. But really it's about the window. And I think we've had lots of debate internally about, 7-day last click and all that kind of stuff. And it just, I think you've got to look at every single channel independently, and doing those match market tests has really helped us isolate what are those key variables and metrics that we can drive.
That's great. Amanda, would you say your approach is similar to Carolyn's with the market mix modeling?
Yeah, we've actually rolled out a marketing mix model, a brand new approach probably about 1.5 years ago, and it really helped us through the pandemic as well as we moved into a phase where we were really investing more in top of funnel to get much closer at understanding the impact of all of the marketing. I think she makes a great point though around the leading indicators. I think sometimes some of our leaders or our peers are really so anxious to understand performance immediately, and they're looking for one clear answer. It's often not that easy, right? You often have to bring a lot of pieces of information together and come up with an insight that gives you comfort as to whether or not your mix is working. There isn't one, at least that I've come across, one kind of silver bullet that says, yes, this is a good thing, or no, this isn't a good thing.
Yeah, you're essentially triangulating data. Like raise your hand on this panel if you're using more than one attribution method. Yeah. More than two. More than three. There you go.
But I actually wanted to mention one quick thing on that, because I think we've been talking about LTV and ROAS keeps coming up, but everyone's also, I think, really focused on profit right now, and a few of the people on the panel have mentioned it. And I think when times were tough and going into a recession, people are thinking about, hey, well, I've been optimizing ROAS, or maybe I was optimized LTV, what should we do now? And I think people are scared about LTV going into recession because people are thinking about like speed to payback and cash flow. And then a lot of times people are reverting back to ROAS in that environment. But I think people are kind of skipping a step in between, which is that profit word everyone's talking about. And we use a metric called FOP, first order profit, all the time with clients who are kind of in this in-between stage, which is really the best way to optimize for cash flow. So if you're looking for immediate profit, optimizing to ROAS is really a mistake because ROAS doesn't take into account margin rates. If you think about it as like a KPI ladder, you have ROAS, add in margin rate, you have FOP, add in repeat rate, you have LTV. And if you don't want to invest into the future because of uncertain times or because of speed to payback, reverting all the way back to ROAS is skipping a step that's actually bringing you back negative because ROAS doesn't account for margin, which doesn't help for cash flow. So if you don't know what your profitability is on your marketing or you're not optimizing to it, then it's really hard to work with the CFO on how to optimize for cash. And FOP allows you to do that because you're literally optimizing the profit, and then you can work with your CFO to not look at your marketing spend as an expense, but rather as a profit driver. And if you're FOP positive, meaning you're generating net incremental profit, then reducing your marketing spend is actually going to reduce your cash flow. And I think that's something that a lot of CFOs don't understand because you're not putting it into their language of profit and instead looking at it through a revenue metric that they then see a marketing expense tied to. And they think that reducing the expense improves the ROI, which we all know is not necessarily the case because of the profit you might be leaving on the table. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And you also had a really interesting experience with measuring top of funnel channels that I think would be valuable for the audience around TikTok. You know, everyone wants to get on TikTok. It's like the new, sexy, shiny new channel for folks, and their measurement is not anywhere near some of the established channels. They're like Facebook 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So very nascent platform, and I'd love for you to share how you guys have kind of solved the challenge of figuring out measurement there.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of in this world, everyone's thinking about measurement in a more and more kind of tech-savvy way, more and more of a software-driven way. But TikTok as a platform, the attribution is just still not there. And while we love TikTok as a platform, and our clients love TikTok as a platform, and users and everyone in this room loves TikTok as a platform to play around with, the measurement just isn't there yet. And what's really funny about this kind of cookieless world that we're going into is that there's great value in measurement solutions, and a lot of them are here in the exhibit hall that you should definitely check out, and we work with most of them. But there's also really simple ways of doing measurement for upper funnel that people used to do 20 years ago or even 30 years ago, that's actually very useful today. And that's just simple, how did you hear about us surveys. And we found amazing utility in how did you hear about us surveys for TikTok in particular because the attribution is so poor and it is upper funnel and the last click usually doesn't translate there. And we're finding sometimes about 10x response rate in how did you hear about us surveys versus what we can measure in platform or what we can measure in last click, which just improves the signal to noise so much more in terms of your ability to optimize the channel. So if you don't use a how did you hear about us survey on your order confirmation page or in your order confirmation emails, I highly encourage you to do so. A couple small tips on that. Make sure you're randomizing the order of the responses for everybody so that you don't introduce bias. Make sure that it's really top of the fold in order confirmation. And make sure that you have a couple in there that you don't actually even do. So if you don't do billboard or you don't do TV, add a couple of things like that in there too, just so that you can measure kind of some of that noise. And it's an incredibly useful way to measure TikTok, and it's something that we're working on with a lot of our clients.
That's great. Sarah, you know, brand and performance marketing have traditionally lived in these separate silos, but I think there's so much value in learning from the different tactics. What's your experience with learnings from either brand tactics that you've applied to performance marketing or vice versa?
Well, coastal grandma was the thing. Sorry, that's just in my TikTok. As we learned about the Land's End customer that she actually was on TikTok, that was just some
A lot of
insights.
people still think it's only for young people.
Yeah, but you know, some insights start to taper down. So the more we let the brand team go, which is hard for performance marketing, but the more we let them go and really kind of say like, we are going to play in the sandbox and be less polished, less filtered, more overt in how we reach a customer. The more we let them push that envelope, the quicker we learn on the performance marketing side. So I joke about Coastal Grandma, but that unlocked a linen separates campaign on the performance marketing side for spring summer that we didn't plan on. So the teams work very, very closely with. It is not an us them, but if we weren't letting them play and explore, we would not have been able to react that quickly in market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when we talk about profitability, marketers are driving traffic to a website, and so that's full funnel from the perspective of different stages in the funnel. But when they actually get there, what are they doing? And that's where profitability becomes a part of the equation, and conversion rates, and really thinking about driving someone to actually purchase once they get there. So I'd love your perspective on that as well, and how you guys are thinking about the site experience, kind of to close the loop from a full funnel marketing perspective.
I'm an e-commerce dork before I'm a marketer 10 times, a million times over. And what that upper funnel hit and how that has changed, what that has done for us on the website side is, traditionally being very tied to the AOV has to be this, the UPT has to be this, the AUR, the margin needs to be this, and really saying, okay, you know what? We're going to be okay with an unsigned in checkout. We are going to be okay with a checkout on the PDP or a guest checkout, or bringing that Apple Pay up the funnel, which that is letting us capture the new customers faster. But it's on the performance side, it's still small. It's not going to change our AOV, UPT, those standard things quite yet. But it has forced us to say the ideal web experience, the ideal checkout flow is not what we want it to be as marketers, and we need to adjust to get that traffic right away.
That's great. So let's talk a little bit about organizational challenges. So, depending on how your org is organized, it's easier or harder to do full funnel marketing in the most agile way as far as shifting dollars between different stages of the funnel. Amanda, can you tell us a little bit more about your experience from an org perspective and where it started and some of the changes that you've implemented?
Yeah, so when we started in 2019, this was just an idea around the aspiration of really creating a connected customer journey. And we just said, okay, if everybody worked on the same team and organized around the same objectives, this will be easy. It was not. I think there's a couple things that are really important. I think the first thing really is culture. And if you do not have a collaborative culture, full funnel marketing, and particularly full funnel measurement and investment, are really, really hard to do. You have to have a lot of trust across marketing and finance and e-commerce, and you have to be able to communicate leveraging the same language in order to make decisions. So we've come up with a lot of different processes around how we approve budget, in order to enable the teams to move really quickly, so that I personally do not need to get involved with every budgeting decision. Our CFO does not need to approve every single incremental investment in e-commerce. So that's been really great. I think the other things that we've done is we have organized really agile test and learn teams, as well as a team that we've created that we call Fast Lane around creative content, so that when we need to make a change, either because we have to change a promotion to react to business, or because we see the customer really responding to something from a content or category standpoint, we can make that move quickly. In the past, brand was a much longer process in terms of creating something, right? You started working on a campaign, 6 months out. I have a meeting later on today about spring, right? We're going to brief it next week. So brand used to be a much longer lead time, whereas performance was much more instantaneous. And a lot of what we've done from a culture standpoint is really thought about taking that speed and injecting it in brand, and then taking that level of thoughtfulness in terms of what we're putting out to the customer and injecting it in performance. But really, it's all about culture and people working together and trying to think differently. That's at the end of the day, that's how it works.
That cultural piece is so interesting. That kind of leads to the brand insights impacting performance marketing, performance impacting brand from a cultural perspective. So not just tactically, but how you think about it and engage with the channel. Carolyn, are you finding similar aspects to what Amanda was talking about at Tailored Brands? I know you guys have looked at organizational structure in a really deep way as well the last few years.
Yeah, so we used to have, as I mentioned earlier, we had our TV team who was responsible for all the media buying decisions and really what was going to show up where and when. was separated from our digital marketing team. And that obviously isn't the way the world works anymore. And we've moved to about 50-50 spend split between TV and digital video, online video. And that also fuels social media, it fuels what we're doing even in our display channels, et cetera. So having all that together now actually really allows us to look holistically at, here's all the great content that we have, what's the best way to get that distributed out to the customer at the right different touch points. So it's a much more holistic approach, which we're really seeing help pay off and give a much more sort of fully, like truly integrated presence to the customer.
Awesome. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. Let's do a rapid fire close. Everybody get out your crystal balls, look to the future, and tell us how you think this is going to evolve. Where's the conversation going to be a couple years down the road if we had this discussion again? And what would you like to see come out of this? Like, full funnel marketing is never done. It's always evolving, but where's the future for you? Let's start with you, Joe.
Yeah, I'll just take a different track here for the fun of it. But I think if I were to focus on the creative side for a second and how that applies to this conversation, I think brands just need to think about creative as an investment, the same way they think about media as an investment. And I think right now, when brands are looking at the two different dollar kind of allocations, they're looking at media as an investment that drives revenue, and then creative is like this necessary expense in order to give the asset to media. But really today, I think it's just fungible dollars, right? And if you could take money away from working media and put it into creative, you might get a better outsized return because of the impact that creative has on the media investment itself. And I think brands are too often trying to shortchange creative investment to maximize media investment because they think it's going to take them farther, as if reach is the only metric that matters. And if that was the case, then none of us would have creative teams, right? So I think creative is a lever that people need to be pulling on harder, and especially in this full funnel world with video, like every single piece of content you serve should be building an emotional connection with your consumer while also driving them down the path to conversion. But building creative in a way that doesn't have the business objective in mind, or building the creative in a way that is specific to brand or performance, is what's really holding you back from allowing that media investment to flourish and unlock all the opportunity that's available to you. So I think that shortchanging creative is something that needs to change over the next couple of years.
Great. Sarah?
Playing off of that, definitely a role shift for creative, right? It's going from at Land's End catalog makers to content creators.
Vertical video content creators.
They just, every asset is something that could be something, right? But I will say the missing link, and again, if I had a magic wand, I would make sure that creative was attributing everything correctly, because if I don't know that is white swimsuit style number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can't carry that through to all of the content that we want to push out into performance. And that's really hard for a creative team to wrap their heads around, that the data that they put behind their assets, their content is absolutely crucial to how we carry that all the way through.
Definitely.
Or how they compress an image to speed up.
All of it. And so that's a major job change for them. But I also think wow, the whole world has now opened up to them, because the content can be anything. It could be you wearing those sneakers versus a $10,000 a day model.
Yeah. Carolyn?
So one of the things that I've talked to my team a lot about is that brand is not just a really cool TV commercial that made somebody cry, right? Like, brand is everything. It's the entire experience that the customer has with you and all those different touch points. And we're in sort of a more unique position, I guess, funnily enough, that with our over 600 stores for Men's Wearhouse across the country and all that our in-store experience is actually a really, really big part of our brand, and how we can then think about connecting that to what we do through our digital channels and our digital touch points, and how we actually use the content that our customers are creating and tie that back to the store experience. And I think the future is really all about continuing to blur those lines and not be thinking of it as brand does this, promotions do that, or performance does that, online does this, offline does that. That it's really, as much as you can hybridize, the better.
Integration, great. Last but not least, Amanda.
I'll be fast and I'll answer it differently. I think in the future, increasingly so, it's really about our customers and our communities coming forward and co-creating with us, telling us exactly what they want, taking our brands and interpreting them on their own, increasingly making content for us. I think in a few years, it's going to be less about what we all think we should be doing with brand or performance, and more about being able to really amplify the things that consumers are doing to show their love for our brands. It's all about them, not us.
Well, strong close. Strong close.
Great close. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.